All right, folks. Now, we've been waiting for this one. October 15, 2024, John Deaton debating Senator Elizabeth Warren. We're about to keep this fight going with John Deaton, our XRP Army General, leading the way. And I've been talking about this XRP go viral moment when folks start to look into John Deaton. And I'm going to talk about this race here, which gets really interesting. The way that John Deaton's been able to sell himself, his messaging, so on point. A guy who really did it, really served for our country, really comes from nothing. When you compare it with Elizabeth Warren, it's not even close. And this is a politician where both sides of the aisle, every walk of life, comes to support because he's putting his message, first and foremost, freedom. John Deaton set to debate Elizabeth Warren. I got a full update before we get this debate going. And so I want to get right on into it right away because this was a massive day for what took place at Ripple's Swell conference down in Miami. We had a bunch of news taking place with the markets moving back up, Bitcoin touching off of 68,000. Bitcoin has now set a new trend moving back up, and it's almost as if we're starting to get a little bit of an election pump. I've called it the Trump pump, and I'm going to show you the betting odds, right? We are on an election night, debate night. We are going to be talking politics. I know it's an election cycle, and here soon we'll be hopefully moving on and moving forward and building America together with freedom first. I love what John Deaton's done here, and it relates to kind of what we stand for when it comes to XRP, this whole lawsuit. You already know that I have my red folder ready to go with a debate night here with John Deaton, Elizabeth Warren. The damage done to the XRP community, massive. And that's just one case where John Deaton has stepped up and served his country. Also as a Marine, also has taken on many other cases representing the little guy or gal. And so when he gets to show what this is about to Elizabeth Warren, the people are going to fall in love. When we get to show the broader crypto space about XRP and the truth about XRP, they fall in love. They can't get away from it. And you're starting to see that too, where everybody's hyping up XRP. Now, in tonight's live show, like I said, I'm on a little bit late. I do apologize. I wanted to get going at 5 and give myself 30 minutes before the debate to go through the news. But here we are. I got about 17 minutes till the debate starts. Let's see what we can make happen. Starting off here, the Bitcoin chart. We are looking at 66.9 after going up to 68,000, cooling off right now up to 68,000 today. For XRP, it's 54 cents. Now, XRP did pop up to about 55.5, the 555, and we're watching it closely. No one in my community, I didn't expect any movement in price based off of Ripple's Swell conference. In fact, I thought maybe we were having a little bit of a run up leading up to it and that we would cool off. And then per tip, as usual, we trade with the broader market and folks get all bummed out because we're talking about all these great things happening at Ripple's Swell conference. I'm going to show you actually Monica Long saying that the key takeaway for this year is it was, quote, the biggest year for institutional adoption. Now, that can't be said for a lot of the rest of the space. They might say that and throw that out there like they're playing along or doing something serious in this cryptocurrency digital asset space. But when it comes to Ripple, they're setting the standard. They've been building out the different pillars, the infrastructure layer here now being added to custody. We have stablecoins going live. I updated you guys earlier today. They're about to flip the switch on the RLUSD stablecoin on the XRP ledger and Ethereum. You bring this liquidity into our space. They said this is the biggest year for institutional adoption and folks are getting fudded out of their bags. That's how this game works. Now that the New York Department of Financial Services, as they talked about in Ripple Swell, they had a representative there. She said that they have 60 full-time crypto staff now. See, if it was up to Elizabeth Warren, it would be an anti-crypto army that the bureaucrats would be, just like under Gary Gensler's reign, actually. You're getting a good taste of it right now. You're getting a good taste of Elizabeth Warren's program right now because she's actually been kind of leading the charge on the Democratic front when it comes to cryptocurrency. Now, there's started to come some others, more moderate, more reasonable, a little bit of common sense, not absolutely corrupted and a bought out, paid for, sellout politician like Elizabeth Warren is. And they're saying, yeah, we need to move towards digital assets and we need to move quickly. I mean, you got even the likes of Maxine Waters saying that it's the grand bargain of our time to do stablecoin legislation. The undercurrent How fitting, right? Ripple's swell conference, the undercurrent of financial liquidity that's coming into this space, and it ain't going to Mickey Mouse coin. Maybe a little bit. Maybe the big boys can't help themselves and they'll invest in Dogecoin or a Mickey Mouse coin. That's not going to deny that. There's still plenty of money flowing around in this system. And you're seeing what's coming here as China's already flipped. They're back to quantitative easing. I believe that after this election, the uncertainty subsides. Our civil war comes, passes, goes. We get back to business. The market's going to turn back around with quantitative easing to fuel that. More inflation is going to be coming back. That's the double-edged sword. Yes, our asset prices are going to go back up. We're going to go back up to new all-time highs. This bull run is going to be magnificent. But inflation's coming back. So it's a double-edged sword. You better be prepared. You better be tapped in. That's why we continue to bring you guys the content that matters most on a daily basis. We have been waiting for this moment. And if you can't tell, I am so excited to cover this debate here between John Deaton and Senator Elizabeth Warren. Already been in here for over a dozen years, hasn't accomplished much. And what she has done is really, led the agenda in DC that's been against all Americans, right? None of this pandering needs to happen. We want a level playing field. There's people of every background that they have come to not just XRP, but sound money, which to me is the most important movement in this country. To John Deaton's point of freedom, the ability to transact freely with sound money is what this battle's really about. On top of a spiritual battle on top of that, I do believe, and may God be with us as we attempt to save this country. If you guys haven't already subscribed, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any updates like this one. But also, can you guys do me a big favor and share this one out far and wide? We need to get this message out here. John Deaton, when the folks find out about him, he's about to go take out Elizabeth Warren. XRP, when the folks find out about that, they're going to understand this is the basis of a new financial system. Let's get it rocking and rolling. We're running short on time here before the debate starts, so let's get right on into it, folks. Can the crypto voter actually impact the outcome of this election? This is from Coinbase. Well, in the swing states, yes. When you look at Arizona, there's 720,000 crypto owners, 10,000 vote differential. Now, this is polling based on 2020 presidential election data. So based off of 2020, it was a difference of 10,000 votes in Arizona. There's 720,000 crypto voters. Nevada, 385,000 crypto owners, 35,000 vote differential. Michigan, 940,000 crypto owners, 156,000 vote differential. Wisconsin, or as they like to say up there, Wisconsin. I got family out there in Wisconsin. 640,000 crypto owners, 20,000 vote differential. Pennsylvania, big one. 1.4 million crypto owners, 77,000 vote differential. Let's continue. In a historic turnout, approximately 252,000 ballots were cast in Georgia today, obliterating the previous record of 136,000 set in 2020. This unprecedented surge in voter participation reflects the rising political engagement across the state, across the country. The people have had enough. As we approach the upcoming election with just 20 days remaining, massive turnout. According to the betting markets, which remember, these are not U.S. voters. These are all people outside of the United States, unless they're accessing this platform through a VPN, which I don't really think that many people would be. But other than that, this is only outside the U.S. folks that can take advantage of poly market. Just like so many good investment opportunities, they're all going outside of the United States of America. And what we're looking at right here is Trump with a commanding lead. This is the biggest lead yet. 58.1% to Kamala's 41.7. Kamala 41.7. Trump 58.1. Trump has a big announcement coming tonight on X. Make sure you follow him. We're going to be watching it closely. This is from World Liberty Financial. I'm just going to double check. Looks like the token sale is live. That's what it was. 1 hour ago, the token sale is live. I believe that you have to be an accredited investor, or if you're in the UK, a qualified investor. Please take a look at that. This is not a sponsorship. I have nothing to do with this. I'm not going to be buying this, even though I do think it's rather hilarious. Forcing the hand of the SEC and the bureaucrats that are trying to get their hands all over this. It's going to be very interesting because if he conducts this properly, the investment with only accredited he's going to basically be able to skirt the SEC, which not, obviously the SEC will still go after people even if they're within the law. But it's just interesting to me that he's saying that he's going to fire Gary Gensler and he's launching some token, which I've actually been critical of this. You guys have actually heard me speak on this, and I've been very open about my criticism towards his endorsement of this project a month before the election. I just don't think it's necessary. I mean, look at the betting markets, look at the polls. How much weight or value can you put on the polls? Probably not much, but to me, it just looks like too risky of an opportunity to put his name on for the reward. He already has the crypto vote. And as we're seeing, as we just showed you guys with the Coinbase stats there, it's overwhelming how much turnout we can get from the crypto voters in the swing states. Now, continuing on that thread, speaking of being critical to Donald Trump, this is the Scaramucci, Anthony, speaking on this World Liberty Finance. He says it's a money scam. Quote, you can get some of his donors to funnel money into that. It ends up in his pocket, and then he can fund things that he needs to do for himself. And the hilarious part about this election in the last few years is you get to see projection every single day. It's funny. They want to be critical of what Trump's going to do with the funds raised from this. Meanwhile, what about all these other campaign schemes that we've seen and uncovered? Look at what James O'Keefe has done, right, with some of his work. I'm not even going to name the names of the groups because I don't even want to get into that. We're seeing it on both sides of the aisle. It's not it's cheating. It's not good on either side of the aisle as far as some of these schemes that are being derived to do this. Now, is this taking place with Trump? Who knows? Scaramucci just sounds sour every time he talks about Trump. He sounds like he's somebody who, broke up with his ex, but is, still can't get over him, right? He remember, that was so, I'll never forget when Scaramucci was the press secretary for Trump for, what was it, one day? And then he got fired. And that was one of the most hilarious pressers. I think he might have done a couple even. That was incredible. GA Home Invest with the 20 spot. Zach, you're a colonel in the Army. Keep it up, onward. I appreciate that support, my friend. That's what this is all about right here. I call it out too. Now, John Deaton, he's running on a platform that's actually not a Trump Republican. He's not openly supporting Trump. He's distanced himself. He's been critical in the past for sure. And for his positioning politically, remember, this is politics. And as someone who gets the marketing and branding, I get why he's doing this from a political standpoint to distance himself from Trump in Massachusetts. That I was just listening to the local Boston news before the debate here tonight. Apparently, it's been 100 years since a Democrat incumbent has been defeated in Massachusetts. So it's been 100 years since a Democratic senator incumbent has been defeated in Massachusetts. So I understand why he's trying to capture that middle of the road vote. And I think that he can. Now, when John Deaton gets through this election, let's make a deal, right? Trump, we all have thoughts about Trump. Trump is Trump. That's okay. But let's sit down and get a deal done. And I honestly thought that it might have helped him in this election. And I think that it would have. But I understand the positioning politically, why he's trying to stay more middle of the road as a moderate Republican. And they're describing him as anti-Trump. Is he really anti-Trump anymore? I think that John is in the fight. He's in the good fight. That's where we're at. And just like John, just like so many of you that are listening to me tonight, I can't wait to hold Trump accountable in the second term. My expectations for Trump's second term are like 1776 revolution style. Like, we need to accomplish a lot. You know what I'm saying? We need to get a lot done. We need to get rid of a lot. That's what's incredible, is how easy it would be, I think, to shift us in the right direction. You just start cutting, right? Just like Milei did in Argentina, right? You just get out the chainsaw and start cutting. And what's interesting too, John Deaton here, aligning himself with Baker and some of the other more moderate Republicans there in Massachusetts, I think that he has a chance to give Elizabeth Warren a real run for his money. It's unfortunate that there's only going to be 2 debates leading up to the election. We're exactly 3 weeks tonight. In 3 weeks, we're going to know who our president is. Right? We already are getting record voter turnout. Then we have the election. Then we'll see what happens. Right? But John Deaton here, it's unfortunate that he's only getting 2 opportunities to debate Elizabeth Warren publicly because he's going to put on a clinic. He's going to put on an absolute clinic. My prediction for tonight is that he's just going to scorch her. She stands no chance. I think that he's going to come so well prepared and his talking points hit home with every American. That's what's so great about John, is that you have Democrats and Republicans getting out here and supporting John Deaton. Now, as always, I do have John Deaton's website linked up down below. I don't know if you can still debate. He's got like a debate push trying to collect donations before the debate. I don't know if that's still going on, but I know you can definitely still donate to his campaign. And it's just an absolute honor to be in this fight alongside John, knowing that John, I mean, he's talked about it, right? 15 billion in damages done to the XRP community. It's absolutely massive. And that's on the conservative end of the spectrum. But you got to start the conversation somewhere. And that's why I'm looking forward to more politicians like John Deaton that can just sell real action and not just sell it, but actually execute and follow up on it. Now, by the way, I hope you guys are having fun in the chat here tonight. We are approaching debate here. We're getting close. I got a couple data points to share with you guys before we get there. Eleanor Terrett just had a great chat with Stuart Alderati of Ripple, who gave me a rundown of the appeals timeline. This is SEC versus Ripple appeal timeline. The SEC's last day to file the Form C, which is the actual appeal, right, is tomorrow. So 10/16 tomorrow, we get to find out what the SEC is actually going to appeal on. Or maybe they let this expire. Maybe they fake us out. Maybe they don't actually file an appeal. Wouldn't that be something? 24 hours to go. The clock is a-ticking. I don't want to get my hopes up. Both parties will then agree on a briefing. And sorry, I skipped one. That's going to be 7 days later. So tomorrow, the SEC files the appeal. 7 days later, Ripple will file its own Form C, which will give more details about its own cross appeal. Ripple's already said that they're going to cross appeal. That'll come 7 days after tomorrow. Both parties will then agree on a briefing schedule, and then the SEC has up to 90 days to file its first brief. Alderati says he expects them to take the full 90 days. That opening brief will be a full recitation of all the legal arguments that the SEC will be making. Ripple will file a response and then its own brief. The full briefing process, and this is the unfortunate part, folks, the full briefing process, according to Alderati, will go through July of 2025. So tomorrow, we have less than 24 hours to go. If the SEC lets this expire, Ripple will have no cross appeal. Ripple will not appeal. This will be done. I don't want to get our hopes up. Okay, well, we have 24 hours to figure this out. If they file the appeal, Ripple's filing a cross appeal. We are out with this full briefing process, which is just the briefing process. Takes us to summer of next year. Prepare yourself accordingly. I've been talking about the hedge against the SEC appeal going back weeks, if not months now. In fact, I've been hedging all year. Now, this is the momentum right now. Michael Arrington at Ripple's annual Swell event in Miami this year. Fantastic event. The community remains so strong after all these years. This is him with Rob Cunningham from The Cool Show. Huge shout out to Rob, with Brad Garlinghouse and Michael Arrington. But this is the important thing. When Arrington is so bullish, his long XRP position is higher than ever before. The XRP army can rest assured we're in the right place. That's the difference. That's why these real life in-person events are so important. You can go up to these guys, shake their hand, look them dead in the eyes, and ask them directly, what's the vibe? And it's nothing but bullish momentum over here. Folks, did we call this one or what? This was one of my Ripple Swell predictions, was an ETF announcement, right? Well, we got 2 ETPs filed by Canary and Bitwise before Ripple Swell conference, but today it turns out Grayscale's flipping the switch on their digital large cap fund into an ETF. Remember, this is the one that contains Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, and AVAX. So, I mean, we've been talking about this one, right? We said this large cap fund specifically is definitely going to get rolled on over into an ETF, just like they did with Bitcoin, just like they did with Ethereum, just like they're going to be doing with XRP, with Litecoin. You saw Canary just filed a Litecoin ETP or ETF. I don't know which one that was. But regardless, they're flipping the switch on the ETFs right now. And, you know, this is why Monica Long said in her speech here today that this is the biggest year for institutional adoption. I'm going to play this right here. Monica Long speaking her keynote at Ripple Swell Conference. She is the current president of Ripple. Biggest year for institutional adoption. Listen in, folks.
In our industry, we think the headline of 2024, it has been the biggest year of institutional adoption for digital assets and blockchain that we've seen to date. And we think this has been driven by 3 trends. Momentum for global regulatory clarity, crypto getting validation from Wall Street as a bona fide asset class, tokenization of real-world assets. And we think this is just the tip of the iceberg. We know from working with financial institutions for many years that what they want is a one-stop shop that provides secure and compliant digital asset infrastructure. And that's what we do.
Darn it, I'm probably going to get a copyright strike for that music. The Ripple Swell vibes. I'll have to cut that section out later. But the point being, the biggest year for institutional adoption, and folks are getting fudded out of their bags. Oh, another year that we're going to be in the lawsuit. I'm going to cry. I'm going to dump my bags, which that's fine. If that's the only capital that you have to invest or trade, or you need that to pay your bills, I get that. I get that for sure. Times are getting tough. But the point being, right? Why would I get fudded out of my bags right now? Why would I not even be getting more bullish? If these guys are getting excited, right? Michael Arrington and others that have invested tens of millions, hundreds of millions into this, right? And they have direct connections to Brad Garlinghouse and the Ripple team, right? And I didn't even get to show you guys the other 6 slides that I had for Ripple Swell Conference, but this debate is about to get started. I want to make sure that I'm on the live stream right now. I am. So this John Deaton versus Elizabeth Warren debate is about to get started. I see we got super chats. If you guys haven't already, please make sure you have liked the video and shared it out far and wide. Let's have ourselves a party and get the message out here about John Deaton. Let's see what else I can get you. What do we got here? This is Bitnomial. Bitnomial announcing Bitnomial announces Botanical, a U.S. perpetual futures trading platform. I can't wait for this. I've been waiting for perpetual futures. I don't like traditional options, dated options. I like perpetual futures so that I can ride my bad trades for a longer period of time and then wait for them to come back or cover my ass by having to put more capital in. But I like perpetual futures personally, and I'm very excited to see, finally, we're getting some options and derivatives here in the United States of America. But this is Bitnomial announcing this new platform, a U.S. perpetual futures trading platform, with Ripple leading the $25 million Series C led by Ripple. Now, you can join their wait list right here. I'm going to be signing up for that myself and seeing what this is all about. But this is a $25 million funding round led by Ripple, and Brad Garlinghouse will join our board as we bring perps and crypto derivatives to U.S. markets for the first time ever. Now, this is the same Bitnomial that is having to sue the SEC as well. Now, let's get to John Deaton here, folks. This debate is live. Appreciate everybody for stopping by here. I'm going to get John Deaton rolling. I'll be giving some live action commentary during the television breaks. Appreciate you guys for stopping by. Let's see what John Deaton has to say here tonight.
She supports open borders. She voted no on that border bill. It would have brought relief. It wasn't perfect. You don't let perfect get in the way of good. And she's so extreme, she objects to President Biden's cap of $2,500 a day. That's how extreme.
Thank you, Senator Warren.
So the border, the migrant situation is causing stress, and it's causing stress here in Massachusetts on our healthcare system, on our education system, on housing. It's also causing stress on the families themselves. Understand this, though. The Republican playbook is one that Donald Trump has perfected. And that is get up and demonize as many Republicans as many immigrants as you can. Call them terrible names, say that they're trying to eat our dogs and cats. But then, most importantly, don't fix the problem, because it works as an election issue, not something to be fixed, but an election issue. That's what happened in 2016, in 2018, in 2020, in 2022, and in 2024. And John Deaton certainly doesn't refer to immigrants eating our dogs and cats, but he's taking a page out of the same playbook. We need comprehensive immigration reform. But the only way we're going to do that is by cutting off extremist Republicans and actually coming together and fixing it.
We're going to get to the open period in 1 sec. Vicky has a follow-up.
I wanted to ask, yes, a follow-up, because former President Trump, his promise on this issue is to execute the largest mass deportation in American history. Is that something you would support?
Of course not. When you talk about mass deportations, 20, 30 million, no. But small level deportation has to be part of it. Listen, President Obama deported 3 million. It's okay to have it. But listen, let's go back. No one in this race running for office can identify with these poor migrants more than me. I know what it's like to want a better life. I listened to my mom cry at night on the nights that we didn't have food to eat. So of course I don't demonize these migrants, but it is 12 million. I assume 99% of these people are good people who want a better life. 1% is 120,000 potential bad guys. And we just saw a report that says 435,000 have felony convictions, 15,000 rapists, 13,000 murderers. So even if you give the benefit of the doubt like I do, it's still a national security risk.
Equal time.
Look, this is a page out of the Donald Trump playbook. It may have a little nicer face on it, but it's the same kind of notion. It's an election issue. Let's demonize that other group. Let's talk about how they're rapists and criminals, and let's figure out a way to make that the only issue in the debate. Because Republicans believe that they will win on that issue, and they've done it over and over and over. I first voted for comprehensive immigration reform in 2013. It was a bill led by Republican Marco Rubio, and it had all of the elements we need in immigration reform. It had border security, it had work permits, it had money for our states, and it had a pathway to citizenship. I believe strongly that as we negotiate a comprehensive immigration reform plan, we need to make certain that the states are fully reimbursed for what they are spending on migrants, because after all, questions about immigration are federal. The federal government should pay for the migrants who are here to support them. But we need a comprehensive plan, and the Democrats and Republicans need to work together.
Rebuttal.
And we need to separate out this crazy extremism.
Extremism, absolutely. Pay attention to not what they say, what they do. Senator Warren just literally said, we need comprehensive immigration reform bill. It was on the table, and bipartisan, and she rejected. She's out there saying Vice President Harris is going to bring back that bill. She's literally saying that nationally, and she voted against it. How do you vote? How do you object to 2,500 cap per day? I know these. I went to the border. And I learned that these women are being given Plan B pills because they get raped along the way. I would never demonize these people, but it's a national security crisis. The problem is Senator Warren will say, oh, you call it national security crisis and you're a racist. That's insane.
Response, please.
No, let's be clear. This is the Republican playbook, and it's the same playbook over and over and over. And that is talk about the immigration problem, but when it actually comes time to fix it, like we did back in 2013, the extremist Republicans, Donald Trump said just a few months ago, I want to keep it as an election issue, so don't actually fix the problem. In fact, see what you can do to make the problem worse, make everybody suffer, so they can run on it again and again and again. We do need comprehensive immigration reform. I've laid out what the 4 elements are. That's what we need to negotiate for.
There's only one extremist on this stage tonight, and it's Elizabeth Warren. I'm the moderate, centrist, common sense candidate. It is bankrupting this state. You know, they spend so many billions on the migrants, but can't save Neshoba or Dorchester's Kearney Hospital. And Senator Warren does not want immigration reform. She had a chance, and she rejected it.
One more time,
Look,
and then we'll move on.
I first voted for immigration reform back in 2013, but remember, I did not buy a ticket on a boat that Donald Trump had already sunk. By the time we voted on this one, we all knew the bill was dead, the Republican support had been pulled. The big question is, what position do you want to be in as we're negotiating for real immigration reform? And for me, we need a pathway to citizenship, and we also need full reimbursement for the states that are currently housing the migrants.
All right, candidates, you can return to this later if you want to, but I do want to move on so we get different topics in here. And you'll go first here, Senator. Question for both of you. Politicians like to talk a big game about bipartisanship, but the record shows senators vote with their party leaders the vast majority of the time. And it's hard to see how harsh political rhetoric promotes voter support for bipartisan behavior. So, how can voters trust that you'll put their interests ahead of partisan politics? 1 minute, please.
I'll stand on my record on that because I have done it. Look, I am so deeply honored that the people of Massachusetts have sent me to Washington to fight for them. And so that's what I do every day. And that's how it is that over the 12 years I've been there, I have been the principal sponsor in 44 pieces of legislation, and 27 of those pieces of legislation are bipartisan. That is, I have a Republican co-sponsor who helped me get to the finish line. That's how it is that I broke the hearing aid monopoly with help from Republican Charles Grassley. That's how it is that I protected pensions with help from Republican Steve Daines. That's how it is just recently that I helped make sure you get your money back when they cancel your flight with help from Republican Josh Hawley. And those 44 bills do not include the more than 100 pieces that I've gotten into our defense authorization bills that come through every year, many of those on a bipartisan basis. I deliver on a bipartisan basis.
Thank you, Mr. Deaton.
Senator Warren has passed one bill in 12 years as primary sponsor. But let me tell you, remember what I said, that you have to pay attention to what they do, not what they say? Senator Warren has been out there. When is a Republican going to stand up to Donald Trump? When is a Republican going to defend and protect a woman's right to choose her own health issues and be pro-abortion? Guess what? That Republican is here. I've been taking on the leadership of the Republican Party. And what does Senator Warren do? Did she welcome that? No, she lied about me. She called me a MAGA extremist Republican recruited by the Trump machine when she knew that I was even more critical of President Trump than she has been. Pay attention to what they say. Bipartisan and Elizabeth Warren do not go together. She is one of the most extremist people in the Senate, and we could go over how she wants to pack the Supreme Court, how she's so anti-business. She's partly responsible for Neshoba and Kearney Hospital. She prevented Amazon buying iRobot. Why? Because Amazon's a big, bad company, and hundreds of jobs were lost. She's the extremist. I'm the moderate.
Thank you.
Deaton is laying in.
This is why people
Deaton is cooking tonight, folks.
John
Let's go.
Deaton. He started this discussion by saying that I had only passed one bill. He has been fact-checked on that publicly in the Boston Globe and said that's not true. I have passed 27 bills on a bipartisan basis, and that doesn't even count the changes I've gotten into our military bills that pass every single year, many of which are on a bipartisan basis. Look, there's a lot we can do on a bipartisan basis. I'll mention just one thing, and that is helping our veterans who have traumatic brain injury. I've been working on this for years now. The notion that when you're hit by blast overpressure, we thought originally with IEDs, but it may also be when you're throwing grenades or even holding ammunition near your head, that it can cause changes to our military members' brains. I have been working to develop the studies on this, the research on this, the diagnosis on this, and the treatment. And I want to say, a big part of that's happening right here in Massachusetts at home base. It's something I do on a bipartisan basis with Republican Joni Ernst from Iowa, because I'm in Washington to deliver for the people of Massachusetts. And I'll do that on a bipartisan basis.
Equal time.
Thank you. Notice I said as primary sponsor. But listen, you notice that Senator Warren didn't even address the fact that she lied about who I am. And she just ignored that. You know, my daughters asked me not to run. They said, Daddy, don't run because politics is ugly. And they might lie about you and try to make you look like a bad guy when you're not. You want to know what I said? I said, Senator Warren is a 75-year-old grandmother. When she sees that I believe strongly in a woman's right to reproduction, and when she sees that I take on Donald Trump or anyone else in the Republican Party, she'll welcome that. And we can have a real policy debate. And the first thing she did was lie about my daughter, Olivia, Senator, called me in tears, saying, Daddy, I told you, my friends are texting me. They're emailing me. I thought your dad wasn't MAGA. I thought your dad believed in a woman's rights. Senator Warren doesn't owe me a damn thing, but she owes my daughters an apology. You should not lie like that.
Further?
Go ahead. John Deaton.
So let's be clear. John Deaton moves to Massachusetts, signs up as a Republican, signs on with the Republican Party to run a coordinated campaign, brags in a Republican primary debate about how he's raising money for Republican control of the Senate, and gets Republicans to come here to raise money for it. And he's unhappy when he gets called a Republican. Look, this is about Senate control, and that's going to be about abortion. If the Republicans have control of the United States Senate, there will be zero opportunity to vote on a law to make Roe versus Wade law of the land. But it's also that our education policy will be controlled by people who don't believe in public education. Our climate policy will be controlled by people who are climate deniers. Our judges will be carefully screened by people who will make sure that they are anti-abortion, and our gun policies will be set by people who think thoughts and prayers are all that we need. Republican control of the United States Senate is bad for Massachusetts, and it's bad for our
Go ahead, equal
country.
time.
Yes, listen, you notice she still avoids the issue, and she just misled the voters again, because I said that I had a victory fund. I was trying to get state legislature people elected because the one-party system's not working in Massachusetts. Again, Senator Warren misled. But here's the thing. Senator Warren lives in this hyper-partisan political world where she's defined by party. You notice it's Democrats are great, Republicans are bad. I got news for you, Senator. All of you suck in Congress. All of you. It's a broken system. I'm disrupting that system. Senator Warren worries about control. When she was asked, what's wrong with John Deaton's policies? You know what she said? Oh, the crypto people like him. Then the person said, well, wait a minute, is that it? And she goes, oh, we want to not lose control of the Senate. This is the point. Is she worried more about the Neshoba customers and nurses and doctors and the Carney nurses and doctors and patients and the Amazon employees that were going to buy iRobot? If she worried about them the way she worries about control, then Massachusetts would be far better.
Okay, I don't want to interrupt the flow here, but you raised an important issue, abortion rights, and Victoria McGrain had a question on that.
Senator Warren, Mr. Deaton here says he is a pro-choice Republican who supports codifying Roe v. Wade into federal law. And that's, as you say, your position as well. So what is the difference between you on the issue?
So this is a matter of trust. You know, we all watched as one after another Republican nominee for the Supreme Court walked in front of the United States Senate and swore until the world looked level that they would respect precedent, which was supposed to be code for they would not overturn Roe versus Wade. And then, literally, the first opportunity they got, they set Roe versus Wade on fire and burned it to ash. And now what happens is that John Deaton comes in front of us and swears until the world looks level that he is a pro-choice candidate. But here's the deal. It's the same John Deaton who said, gee, if he'd had a chance, he would have voted for Neil Gorsuch, one of the justices who set Roe versus Wade on fire and burned it to the ground. He also went on that Republican stage and bragged about he is the candidate helping raise money for Republican control of the Senate. Look, when we talk about abortion, we are potentially talking about the lives of our daughters and our granddaughters. And when that's on the line, we cannot trust John Deaton.
Equal time, Mr.
Yeah,
Deaton.
let me tell you something. Don't talk to me about I'm a father of 3 daughters. I'm incapable of supporting a law that would restrict the freedoms and privacy of my own daughters. Now, let me tell you, remember, I keep saying pay attention to what they do. Senator Warren was in the Senate on June 22nd when that Dobbs decision came down. They had the presidency, the House, the Senate. Where was the Roe bill? You want to know what John Deaton would have done? John Deaton, as a Republican, would have said, I demand that we vote on this and put every U.S. senator on notice. Where do they stand? Senator Warren, they don't want to do that. Why? Because it might make a Democrat in West Virginia uncomfortable. It might make a Democrat in another state. She's guilty of exactly what she said Donald Trump's guilty of. They didn't want to settle the abortion issue. They wanted it divisive. They wanted it as an election issue. Otherwise, Senator Warren would have wrote the Roe bill and got on the Senate floor and demanded that it be voted on. She didn't then.
It's true.
She won't next time.
Rebuttal.
It's true.
So I appreciate that Mr. Deaton has 3 daughters. The justices that set Roe versus Wade on fire and burned it to the ground collectively had 10 daughters. And Donald Trump has 2 daughters that we know of. Look, this is truly a question of trust.
She didn't.
Keep in
She
mind
did
that
just
right
say
now,
that.
30% of all women live in a state that effectively bans access to abortion. And if Donald Trump and J.D. Vance make it to the White House, it won't be 30%, it will be 100%. They're coming for us everywhere, including in states like Massachusetts. If they get the opportunity, and if there's Republican control of the Senate, you better believe that they are going to try to ban abortion everywhere. They've told us that. They've told us that in Project 2025. J.D. Vance has written a letter to the Department of Justice showing them how to do it without a vote in the Senate. Donald Trump brags about what he's done. House and Senate Republicans say they are going for a nationwide abortion ban. Believe them when they tell us.
I'm going to give you another bite at this, then we have to break.
Well,
Go ahead.
Of course. Well, listen, it's not just Neil Gorsuch's fingerprints that's on the Dobbs decision. It's Senator Warren's. Let's go back to 2013 when she encouraged Harry Reid to drop the filibuster rule on lower judges. They were warned by Mitch McConnell that if you do that, then we're going to go with the Supreme Court. If that filibuster would have been honored like it was for 100 years and Senator Warren wouldn't have pushed to end it, the Supreme Court would look different today. It would look very different today. And I know it hurts her for me to say the truth, but her fingerprints are on that Dobbs decision as well.
Briefly, and then I'll give you another
So
brief
let's
point.
just be clear. Actually, we did have a vote in the United States Senate to try to restore Roe versus Wade, and it was blocked by a filibuster led by the Republicans. So, yes, we do have a problem with the filibuster. We need to get rid of the filibuster, and I think we're going to have enough Democrats in the United States Senate to do that. The only way we will be able to vote on Roe versus Wade as nationwide law of the land is to have a Democrat in the White House, a Democratic majority in the Senate, and a Democrat majority in the House. That is the only way.
And because she went first on this, a brief final word from you, then the break, please.
Well, sure. Very brief. Listen, Senator Warren's out there telling people, hey, we're going to end the filibuster and enact Roe immediately. Senator, you got 51 votes now. Let's do it now. You have the presidency and the vice president running for president. Do it now. John Deaton would do it now because John Deaton's not loyal to a party or a person or agenda. He'll be loyal to you out there, to Massachusetts, and to the country that he's already served for 7 years of active duty. Not to a party or an agenda.
Thank you both. Our debate between the 2 candidates for U.S. Senate will continue.
Wow. Now, folks, this is explosive. I can't believe it. I can't believe some of the things that John Deaton has said so far. And I also cannot believe that Elizabeth Warren just dropped that one, right? Trump's daughters that we know of. She really went there. Folks, incredible. Just refreshing my stream here. I want to make sure that I don't miss it when they come back here. But hope everybody's doing well out there. If you guys haven't already, please make sure that you like the stream, share it out far and wide, and let's get everybody in here. We need to be pushing for John Deaton tonight. What a debate so far. Now, the focus on Trump is typical playbook here. Let's focus on the issues. Let's focus on the policies. Let's focus on what you've done, what your record is, right? John Deaton nailing her down on some of these points, clarifying that when she was the single endorser, or whatever they call it, the term for the bills, you haven't gotten one, you got one bill passed. When you were the solo sponsor of the bill, I think is the word, right? So we actually are going to fact check you, Elizabeth Warren. And once again, John Deaton pressing her where it matters most. She's trying to focus it on Trump. He keeps on bringing it back to, I'm not Trump. You're not debating Trump. You're not debating even necessarily a Republican, right? John, like so many of us that are actually independent in the middle, we've had to lean right because we just can't go that far crazy, right? I do find there are some Democrats where I think that they have some nice points on some things, right? For me, I don't just look at D or R. I look, I'm not down the party line. I'm America first. What's your track record so far? We can speak to that. She wants to speak on John Deaton and what he's done. It's been nothing but serve the American people, serving in the military, serving and representing the underrepresented, I should say, everything that he's done. And Elizabeth Warren's track record, not much to speak of. Let's continue. They're back.
Very different view of the cryptocurrency industry. Senator Warren says she wants to build a, quote, anti-crypto army to rein in what she calls crypto's threat to financial stability, consumer protection, climate, and national security. You have criticized her and federal authorities for what you claim is overly aggressive regulation of crypto. What's the right balance? 1 minute.
Well, listen, I want everyone to know, when I found Bitcoin, I thought of my mom, because my mom was on welfare and food stamps, and she couldn't keep a bank account because she couldn't keep the minimum balance, and the bank would hit her with the predatory fees, and we needed that money. And then she had to go to the check cashing stores that you see in the hood, and they would charge her a fee. My mom would beg them, please, can you take less so that we have the money for food? And then when I went to college and I would send her money from college, I used Western Union, and Western Union would take 15%, and it made a difference. So when Bitcoin came, I was like, great, you could cut out the predatory banks and the middlemen and the MoneyGrams and Western Unions, and you could help unbanked people like my mom. But the better question here is for Senator Warren. With illegal immigration bankrupting this state, with inflation pricing regular people out of economy, with a debt crisis where 40% of the people don't have $500 in case of an emergency, with foreign wars taking place, why did this senator wake up one day and say, with all that, I'm going to build an anti-crypto army because crypto's so important to her? That's a question that she needs to answer.
Thank you.
That's how we knock it out of the park right there, folks.
I'm fine. People
That's
want to
straight
buy
out
and
of the
sell
park.
crypto. That's great. I just want to make sure that crypto has to follow the same rules as every bank, every stockbroker, every credit union.
No, you don't.
And
That's a
is
lie.
Some consumer protection laws and some laws to make sure that it's not open for terrorists and drug traffickers and human traffickers in Iran. So that's what I want. But I want to be really clear about what's really at issue here. And that is, who are you going to represent in Washington? There's one candidate standing here who gets 90% of the funding to keep their campaign going from one industry, the crypto industry.
They're jealous.
One candidate
1,000%. They're just jealous. That's why this is such a hot button topic for the Democrats. They're jealous of the money that's coming in from crypto.
Look,
Crypto's got money.
Massachusetts know me.
And we ain't supporting these clowns.
Everybody fight for working people. If John Deaton has a chance to go to Washington, his crypto buddies are going to want a return on their investment.
You
He's
bet.
going to be there to fight for
You're damn
crypto.
right we will.
Senator Warren
You're
never lets
damn
the
right.
truth get in the way. If you actually look what I did, I've upset more crypto billionaires because I did her job. She sits on the banking committee. I exposed all this regulatory capture by former SEC chair, by the way, appointed by Donald Trump,
Hello.
and Bill Hinman, appointed by
Hello.
Donald Trump's administration. There was an IG report. I'm responsible for a lot of that, of these conflicts. So I've upset more of the crypto billionaires than anyone. The largest crypto fund blocks me on social media. But here's the thing, her bill bans Bitcoin self-custody in America, yet she's allowing the banks to custody Bitcoin. Another example that Senator Warren's policies do not help poor people. They do not help the working class. She favors the accredited investor rule. That excludes 85% of the American population. Her policies absolutely hurt poor people. And I got in this race to give poor people an actual voice.
Rebuttal.
So I'm just trying to understand what Mr. Deaton's saying here. He's saying he has really made crypto folks mad, so mad that they came here to Massachusetts and are funding 90% of his campaign to try to take back this Senate seat, to take it away from me. I'm having a hard time putting those pieces together. But I will say this. Look, the banks have truly failed a lot of poor people. It's part of the reason I fought so hard to get a Consumer Financial Protection Bureau in place. It has now saved American consumers more than $15 billion that companies that cheated them had to return directly to those consumers. So I'm all in favor of more restrictions on the bank. The latest one for me has been to go after them on overdraft fees, where folks like JP Chase were making more than $1 billion a year off people who were struggling making it day to day. I'm in those fights, but I think crypto ought to have to follow the same rules as everybody else.
Briefly,
I
because
wish
I'd like to
Senator
move on.
Warren would attack inflation the way she attacks crypto. I wish she would attack securing the border the way she's focused on crypto. You know, she's so focused on crypto, she had the CEO of JP Chase available for questioning, and they had financed the largest child sex trafficking operation in history with Jeffrey Epstein. And you know, Senator Warren didn't ask a single question. She wanted to talk about crypto because she's so hyper-focused. Now, I know that because I was raped as a child for a period of 2 years, I might be a little more sensitive to those child rape victims. But I want to ask Senator Warren, why would you not ask one question? JP Chase settled for $290 million to these rape victims. They had to settle with the U.S. Virgin Islands. And Senator Warren doesn't ask a question. You want to know why? Because a former Democrat president's involved, because her donors are involved, because people that she knows are involved. Again, loyalty to an agenda, loyalty to a party. I come in and I want transparency on everything. I'd like her to answer the question on behalf of all those rape victims, though.
So, look, I have stayed after the banks. I have stayed after the regulators that regulate the banks. I have done everything I humanly can to try to get more fairness into our financial system. What I don't hear Mr. Deaton talking about is what is the return on investment that his crypto investors are expecting from having put millions of dollars into his race. Look, I'm all for having a crypto system. If people want to buy and sell crypto, all I want are just some basic fair rules, the same kind of fair rules that should apply to all of our financial institutions.
I do want to move on, but she asked a question of you, so go ahead.
Absolutely. Listen,
The 90%
I can't help.
This is
I can't
the one
help
on
it. Let me
90% of
finish,
their
please.
funding? Just
Let me
ask it.
finish. I can't help it when she goes to ban an entire industry that they're motivated against her because they see a viable candidate. But listen, the rules are already there. Senator Warren, you notice she didn't answer the question about those rape victims. You know, you can't call yourself a absolute warrior for women if you only select the women you're willing to protect.
You know, I really don't understand this charge, and I don't know what you're talking about here. I have pushed on the banks and tried to get more regulation over the banks and tried to hold the banks accountable every single time they step out of line. Now, I get it. They're big and they're powerful. Of course, I don't take my money from the banking industry. I take my money from the people who want to support this campaign. What I don't hear you talking about is what exactly do the crypto folks expect to get by funding 90%
You want to know
of your
something?
campaign?
Everyone out there, I sued the government because the SEC had done something really bad to small retail investors, and a lifelong Democratic judge agreed with me. I did it all pro bono, and this token XRP was called legal because of my work. I won Lawyer of the Year, Consumer Advocate of the Year, Defender of Freedom Award because I did it for free. And guess what? Last week, that crypto billionaire that she's talking about that has supported me just donated millions of this XRP token to Vice President Harris' campaign. If I didn't do what I did, sue the SEC on behalf of small retail investors, that donation to your candidate of choice, Senator, would not have happened. So, Madam Vice President, if you're watching, you're welcome.
I would like to move on. You can return to this if
Thank
you like
you.
later. Victoria
XRP
McGreen
go
has our next
viral
question.
moment.
We'll go to you
XRP
first again,
go
Mr.
viral
Deaton,
moment.
to make up for
So,
before.
Turning our attention to the rest of the world, you've suggested that Senator Warren is somehow insufficiently supportive of Israel. You've criticized her for not attending Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's speech to Congress. Would you, if elected as our senator, be a guaranteed vote in support of all Israeli government policies? Or can you cite any policy the Israeli government has pursued, past or future, where you might draw the line?
Well, listen, I would never say I'm going to support all of anything. My vote in the Senate will have to be earned. But we have to start with October 7th was the worst act of war and genocide against the Jews since the Holocaust. We have to start with that. And Senator Warren's been silent on this. Last time she ran for re-election, she said, quote, she had deep sympathy for Jews. We've learned that that sympathy doesn't run so deep. She was silent when the Harvard president disgracefully wouldn't admit that calling for the death of every Jew and the destruction of Israel amounted to misconduct on Harvard's campus. She boycotted Prime Minister Netanyahu's address. You and I don't get to pick which day we go to work now, do we? She did. And worse than that, she has taken a pro-Hamas position. She was actually going to speak at a pro-Hamas event recently, and word got out and she bailed out. But here's the thing. Senator Warren has been more critical of our ally Israel than she has Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran. And it's her policies in Iran that got us in this situation. She favored the $6 billion to Iran. They bought missiles with that $6 billion. They shot the missiles at our ally, and now America is shooting down the missiles that America helped Iran get. If that's not the failure of foreign policy, I don't know what is.
Senator Warren, 1 minute.
I am very concerned that war in the Middle East is continuing to spread. Israel has a right to defend itself. Prime Minister Netanyahu does not have a right to drag the United States into war in the Middle East. I think it's pretty clear what we need. We need to de-escalate in this area. We need to stop the bombing. We need to get those hostages home. I have met with hostage families over and over. We need to get more humanitarian relief in for those who are suffering. And most of all, we need to push the parties, all of the parties, to the negotiating table to work out a lasting peace. And that means a two-state solution where parties, two different peoples, can live side by side with respect, with self-determination, and in security.
Rebuttal.
I wish Senator Warren would have spent as much time trying to ban that $6 billion investment into Iran that she did blocking Amazon and iRobot. I wish she would have spent that effort trying to ban the money going to Iran to buy missiles against our allies than she would have objecting to Steward Health being bought by United Healthcare, and we lost 2 hospitals. I wish that she would ban the relationship with Iran that the administration has the way she wants to ban Bitcoin in the United States. It's insane. It is a failed policy that sits at her doorstep.
Go ahead if you want it.
Look, I've met with Prime Minister Netanyahu one-on-one years ago when I went over to Israel. And at that time, we talked about Gaza and about the growing problems in Gaza. We know what we need to do. We don't need rhetoric like this. What we need to do is we need to stop the bombing. We need to get those hostages home. We need to put more money into humanitarian relief, and we need to push the parties to the negotiating table. This war is expanding, and this kind of reckless talk is not going to make anyone any safer.
Go ahead, briefly,
Governor
please.
Walz in the vice president debate literally said that Iran is closer to a nuclear weapon than any time before. And it's because of Senator Warren's policies that they've done that. Listen, if Iran gets a nuclear weapon, we know they're going to use it. So it's because of Senator Warren's policies that we're actually in this mess.
I do hope that Mr. Deaton understands that it was Donald Trump that took us out of the deal we had with Iran to keep Iran from developing a nuclear weapon. The reason that Governor Walz talked about this is because it was a failure of the Trump administration. Look, as I said, we know what needs to be done. Rhetoric like this is not helping.
$6 billion went to Iran during this current administration. They paid for missiles to shoot at our ally, and now we are shooting those missiles down that she helped Iran get. That is insanity.
Let's move on. Again, you can return to this if you like. And this question comes from a voter, Hunter from Swampscott. He writes, I've been born and raised in Massachusetts and want to settle down in the Bay State following the completion of my education. However, I find the cost of housing to be the single greatest obstacle to my being able to do so. You'll go first here, Senator. What will you do in the Senate to help Hunter?
Hunter, I have a plan for you, and I actually also have a way to pay for it. Look, our problem is Econ 101. We don't have enough housing supply. Our population has gone up, and the number of available houses has not. And that has shut too many people out of the housing market and driven up costs through the roof. So I have a plan to help build 3 million new housing units all across the country. Tens of thousands right here in Massachusetts. It's already endorsed by more than 30 mayors across Massachusetts, and it's fully paid for. Look, we're going to have a decision to make as a nation. Do we want to continue to let billionaires pass along wealth to their generation after generation, or could we increase our taxes just a little bit on them, back to, say, the George W. Bush era, and use that money to invest in building more housing? That's how we'll get prices down. That's how first-time homebuyers will be able to get into the market.
Thank you, Mr. Deaton. 1 minute.
Listen, I looked at Senator Warren's bill. It averages a house here in Massachusetts to be built for $183,000. She's never here, so she doesn't realize that it, a minimum costs $300 a square foot. So a house here in Massachusetts in the greater Boston area costs $600,000 to build. It's easy to throw a plan that's never going to happen and then try to take credit. Here's what you have to do. First, you got to secure the border, because the housing situation is being exasperated here in Massachusetts with her open door policy. It is an absolute supply problem. And so I've talked to builders, and you know what the builders tell me? It takes 2 years to get the necessary permits just to build. Then they get more delays. We have to incentivize the behavior that we want. So you give tax credits for low-income housing so that poor people have an opportunity to have better housing. You do that. You also, for the renters out there, we need to increase the $4,000 tax credit to $8,000 to cause some relief for them. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, rebuttal. Time's up.
Start
Go
out
ahead.
by blaming the immigrants. But let's be clear about
I blamed you, not the immigrants.
Let's be clear about my housing bill. My housing bill, you say, oh, it can't get done. You know, that's what people said about my 15% minimum tax on corporations. Nobody will ever get that done. And yet, that's exactly what got passed 2 years ago as a way to pay for the biggest climate package in the history of the world, along with $35 insulin and a $2,000 cap on what seniors spend. So I believe in having big plans that work. Here's the good news, too. The vice president is in favor of doing exactly the same thing, and that is building out housing supply. But the way I do this, there's no number in there on what we say you have to spend in Massachusetts. It's that I enlist partnership with the mayors for them to bring down costs. And they have a lot of different ways they can do that. But our job as the federal government is to say, if you do that, We will put real federal dollars behind that to help you pay for the elementary school or for the new sewage plant you need to work in partnership to get more housing. It's a great plan.
Equal time.
Listen, you incentivize the builders to build. You make it worth their while, and that's how you solve this. And the private sector can do it. Also, we have a commercial real estate issue. I favor that we do away with some of these zoning issues and turn some of the commercial real estate that's not being used into housing. You know, you notice Senator Warren always, if you say there's a national security crisis when hundreds of thousands of people that are literally cross the border with criminal convictions, if you say that, she'll call you a racist or a xenophobe. That's ridiculous. We got to end this divisiveness. You know, let me tell you, I've been on the campaign trail, and the people on the far left say, oh, if you say there's a national security crisis, you're a racist xenophobe. And then if I don't demonize the migrants and I say, listen, these are good people who just want a better life, I know what that's like, then you're soft on immigration. It's insane. And you notice that Senator Warren is part of that broken system. We have to get people like me who are not loyal to a party or an agenda or a person. That is what will give Massachusetts a real voice in the United States Senate, a voice they haven't had for years.
Go ahead.
So I just want to go really quickly back to Hunter's original question, and that is how we're going to bring down the cost of housing. Look, the private sector can do it. That's what Mr. Deaton says. That's what they've been saying for decades now, and the price goes up and up and up. It is time to take the resources of the federal government to work with our local communities and to say we are going to incentivize bringing down prices, and part of that can be cutting regulations, you bet. But let the localities decide for themselves which regulations to cut and how they will bring down costs. We need partnership here.
We have to break, but I'm giving you the last word.
Well, leave it to these
Keep
career
brief,
politicians that have been in office for years, just like the wealth gap that Senator Warren talks about. It's increased every single year that she's been in office because she doesn't have a clue of how to save it. And I hope we get to talk about it because this is an issue that I'm passionate about. It's not a political slogan for me, Senator. It lives in my heart.
Thank you both. Great debate so far. Coming up next, our next question from Victoria McGrain when the WBZ Boston Globe U.S. Senate debate continues. Stay with us.
Wow. Wow, folks. John Deaton lighting it up, and I am looking forward to that one. If he can bring up the wealth gap, I mean, it's like some of these I already know where John Deaton's going, right? He's setting it up so well, delivering it and executing the message perfectly said. John Deaton's on fire. I can tell he's excited up there. Absolutely laying into Elizabeth Warren, and I just love how he's been able to, just keep on coming back to that point that she's had all this opportunity. Her and many other politicians that have sold us out in DC, they've had an opportunity, right? And it's an excuse every time, or she just dodges direct questions and points from John Deaton. She just dodges completely, blames Trump, blames the Republicans, blames somebody else. Tries to say that he tried to blame the immigrants. No, he didn't. He's blaming you, right, for not getting in control of this situation. And so same tactics played out here politically by those that just really can't stand on any policy, any issues that, that they're actually passing, that they're actually getting through. Elizabeth Warren's been talking about all these plans, and while they've remained in control, they've been able to get some things passed, and she talks about some of her bipartisan efforts. But I, want to jump in and make the point. Everything that she's been a part of passing is the bipartisan legislation that only sells out America, our future, our children, and is why we have $33 trillion in national debt on top of $100 trillion of unfunded liabilities. All of the bipartisan stuff that she's preaching about or keeps on reminding us about is the stuff that has sold out this country, and what have we got for it? If all that stuff that she helped pass, was effective, we wouldn't be in this situation. And to John Deaton's point, that wealth gap is expanding every single year. While Elizabeth Warren talks tough, and I'm going to talk about this too after the debate, how she wants to talk about JP Morgan and their overdraft fees. I can't believe that Deaton went there. I can't believe that Deaton went there. As far as talking about why would you bring up the overdraft fees? That's the least of what we have to worry about with JP Morgan. There's been some real crimes against humanity funded, but you don't want to talk about that, do you, Senator? Let's continue on here, folks.
score on the MCAS test, a major diagnostic tool created by the 1993 Education Reform Act, as the state's main high school graduation requirement. If question 2 passes, it would leave the state's 300-plus school districts to set their own graduation standards. Mr. Deaton, to you, are you voting for it or against it, and why?
Listen, I'm voting no because the public education system of which I was with in the inner cities are already stressed out, and we can't have 351 standards. Our school system is still recovering from COVID. The statistics of 5th graders can't even read, and there's people being graduated. If you don't have the MCAS and you have no standards, you're going to get people graduating from high school that can't fully speak English now in the state, and that puts them at a disadvantage. We have to be fair to the students being here. And let me tell you something that's very important to me. I grew up in the inner city. I want to make sure that a kid in Springfield, in Roxbury, in Mattapan, in Brockton, that they have the same quality education as the kid in Wellesley or the kid in Cambridge. And it's something that we have to pay attention to. And so what I want to do is give tax credits to teachers who go into the inner cities to teach. I want to Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you finish your sentence. I was
just saying the bottom line is we can't abandon these kids in the inner cities. And what will happen is that's what's going to happen. You're going to get a better education in the more affluent communities. And trust me, we do not want to leave these kids. They already have it as bad as it can be. I got in this race because I wanted to show them there is a chance for you in this country. There is a chance to achieve the American dream like I did. And I want to make sure. And we can't cut them from education and then ask them to achieve their dream.
Thank you. Senator Warren, MCAS, question 2.
So I will be voting yes on question 2. Many of you know I started out as a special ed teacher. And I learned early on that one test is not a great measure for every kid, that ultimately we keep about 700 kids from getting a high school diploma, and it's a lot of special needs kids and a lot of kids who are just learning English. Look, Massachusetts has the #1 education system in the country, and you have to ask yourself why. Some people think, well, it's because we instituted this test. I think it's because of our teachers. It's because we have really terrific teachers and we support them. Our teachers are telling us that the consequence of this test is actually to teach our kids less because we're teaching them more about test-taking skills, taking them out of the classroom. They want an opportunity to help shape a broader view of which children get a high school diploma. And I think that's something that we should support our teachers who have helped us build the #1 education system in the country.
Rebuttal.
I may not be able to fit in Washington because this logic that these career politicians use just escapes me. Senator Warren just said, we in Massachusetts have the best educational system in the country. So I come from the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid, of the Marine Corps. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so here you go, Senator Warren, bragging, we got the best system, but let's change it. It makes no sense. Just like everything in Washington just about makes no sense. I want to bring common sense back to the United States Senate because clearly it's lacking.
Equal time.
You know, I just have to say, I believe it's our teachers who are producing this system. They're the ones on the ground with our kids, and they're the ones who are telling us just how miserable this test is making life for many of our kids and for many of our teachers. And for what? To identify 700 out of 72,000 kids to say you didn't pass that particular form of test? I got to say, as a former special needs teacher, I think that's a terrible approach.
One standard is better than 351 standards. That's the bottom line. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
All right, let's see if we can fit in one more question here, and this will sort of tax your ingenuity, I think. It's another voter question from Kerry in Brookfield. Quote, it's very difficult to find a primary care doctor. Wait lists are up to a year. There's a definite lack of medical care, especially in rural communities. Do you have a plan to address this issue? And I forgot who we started with last time.
I started last time.
All right, go ahead, Senator.
Okay, good. Well, the answer is it's going to take a lot of pieces here. And one of them is that we need to make sure that we preserve at least access to health care. Keep in mind that Republican control of the Senate means that the people who are in charge nationally of our health care policy want to repeal the Affordable Care Act. And that would cost Massachusetts literally billions of dollars. But our system is already broken, and part of the problem is private equity. Private equity is an issue that I've been working on for years now, trying to beat these guys out of one industry after another, where they come in, like with department stores. Remember Kmart, remember Sears, remember Toys R Us. Suck the value out of these businesses, send it to a handful of investors, and leave a collapsing shell behind. They're now doing it in our healthcare system. That's what Steward Health was all about, and that's what I'm leading the fight to make sure never happens again in Massachusetts.
Mr. Deaton,
couple
go ahead.
of things. Senator Warren literally, there was a deal on the table for United Health to purchase Steward. Senator Warren rushed to the table. She objected to it. Why? Because it's a for-profit company and she wants to be consistent with her brand. She thinks fighting against things means fighting for them, and they're not the same thing. And now we lost 2 hospitals that could have been saved. We're talking about there's a pregnant woman now in Central Mass that has to drive 45 minutes to give delivery because they've lost the maternity health care because Senator Warren wanted to rush and say, look, big bag company, we want to not allow this deal to go through, and it didn't. And so that's the approach that she takes to everything. And she voted for the Ukraine war, which unfortunately we didn't get to tonight. But you want to know the $200 billion that we could have done, Senator Warren? We could offer universal pre-K for 10 years, have $50 billion more. We could expand Medicaid in the 12 states that didn't adopt it yet for 20 years and give millions of more people health insurance. And Senator Warren doesn't ask for these questions to be, when she votes for like foreign wars, she doesn't ask the appropriate questions.
And rebuttal, you each have a minute left. Go.
So let's be clear. John Deaton seems to think the answer to our healthcare system is let the largest insurance company in the world come in and buy up more of our hospitals. I don't think that's the answer. I think that's the problem. The corporatization of our healthcare system is literally killing us, and we need federal regulations in place to stop that. That's what I'm fighting for. That's what John Deaton wants to advance. That's why control of the Senate matters so much in this election.
Rebuttal.
Kearney Hospital in Dorchester, Neshoba Hospital in Central Mass. You know what they needed? They needed a senator that fights for people, that fights for the nurses, that fights for the lab techs, that fights for the doctors, that fights for the patients. Senator Warren didn't care about that. She just rushed to say, big bad company. So I object. Just like with Amazon iRobot, the people in iRobot needed a senator to say, you know, maybe this one deal makes sense, but no, it's big bad Amazon, must be evil. Therefore, Senator Warren objects, cost hundreds of people's jobs. That's the difference. She fights against things and people, not for. Fighting against the rich and the wealthy, Senator, is not the same as fighting for the poor and the middle class. I will fight for the poor and the middle class every day of my life because I have so far every day of my life.
And John Deaton's answer is let the big corporations come in and take it all. I guarantee Massachusetts, we will not be better off.
And that concludes our Senate debate. Thanks to the candidates for an excellent debate. Thanks to Victoria McGreen and the Boston Globe. It's been a pleasure working with you. And thanks also to the many talented people behind the scenes here at WBZ who make these debates happen. So, now that you've heard the candidates, you have a job to do. Vote. Early voting by mail has already begun. Check with your local town or city hall to find out about in-person early voting and where to vote on Election Day. Then, watch your vote count on WBZ's extensive election night coverage. Coverage of the national results starts on WBZ via CBS News at 7 p.m. We're here on TV 38 starting at 8 with...
Okay. I was hoping to see, I wanted to see if they shook hands after. I'm sure they did. I wanted to get that photo op. John Deaton shaking Elizabeth Warren's hand after he just laid it down. Folks, look at that. Oh, there they go. There they go. Good. John looking good up there Absolutely. Now, I do want to give a shout out to the moderators of this debate. I've listened to many political debates, and I thought that they did a pretty good job of, they did let Elizabeth Warren get in the last word there, right? They were both given one final minute, and of course, Elizabeth Warren had to chime in there for one last jab. I don't think that she landed, though, on any of her points, if I'm being honest. Like, there wasn't one point that you could say, wow, she actually got John Deaton on that one. There wasn't one. Like, all debate. What do you guys think? I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. I appreciate everybody for stopping by. If you guys haven't already, please make sure that you have liked this video. It really does help us get the word out. And if you guys are new here, make sure you guys have subscribed and hit that notification bell. All of our community resources are available at ZachRector.com, and I really appreciate you guys for stopping by tonight. I'm going to sit around here and give you guys my analysis for another little bit here before I end this stream. We're not going anywhere just yet because I want to break down what just took place, folks. I forgot to mention it during the last commercial break, but you guys heard it. You guys heard it. This was the moment that we've been waiting for. John Deaton mentions the XRP lawsuit and the damages done by the SEC on the debate stage tonight, specifically even mentions XRP. This is why I've been describing this as the XRP go viral moment. This is it. This is the XRP go viral moment. Now, in the state of Massachusetts, John Deaton just showcased himself to the rest of the state, and I think that this state race here for Senate is way closer than they're leading it on to be. Remember, these are polls that I don't put much value on, and I know that many of you guys don't put much value on these polls either. When we look at them, Elizabeth Warren has a very good lead. But when you look at these debates, it wasn't even close. Like I said, there wasn't one point that Elizabeth Warren got John on where, he was in the wrong. There's not one issue, right? And not only that, on the issues where she's trying to lie about his position, he was able to clarify that, but then he was also able to say, you had an opportunity here. And he pointed to exact days, exact votes, exact moments where it's like, this just isn't my policy. This isn't just what I believe in here. But Senator Warren, you say that you're for this. You had opportunity time and time again, over 12 years now. And as a individual sponsor of bills, you've only had one bill pass. When you team up with Republicans to sell out our country, you get bills passed. Yes, congratulations. Thank you very much. You're exactly the problem. Just like John Deaton said, you all suck. Now, I couldn't believe it. But John Deaton, not only did he mention XRP, he also mentioned that name I don't mention, that bad, the crimes against humanity that we need to talk about. We do need to have a conversation about it. You want to talk about JP Morgan's overdraft fees? That's the problem. And this is why it's a complete clown show from Elizabeth Warren and these types. They pick up these and they're speaking to, they're dumbing down these issues, speaking to the populace. Oh yeah, we're going to protect you against those JP Morgan overdraft fees. They made over $1 billion after, from their overdraft fees. Well, that's their business model. That's the terms that you've agreed to. Is, banking predatory? Absolutely. Has banking facilitated crimes against humanity? That's the real issue that we should probably talk about. But she doesn't want to go anywhere near that. And John Deaton hit her multiple times, giving her direct questions, giving her direct opportunities to clarify issues. She just diverted, switched topics, flipped it back on Trump, even though she wasn't debating Trump. It was almost as if she was debating Trump because everything was about Trump. Everything was about the Republicans, even though John Deaton was probably reluctant to put an R next to his name. It's just the party that he was most aligned with and the best opportunity that he had. But as I think that all of us Americans are at the point right now, we just want to talk about the issues and what's getting done, what's been done or hasn't been done by politicians that have been in office for over 12 years, and what's coming next. Let's talk about the issues and the actions. Let's execute on a plan, not just talk about a plan, not just make up excuses. Right? Every single time. Oh, the Republicans filibustered it. Oh, this happened. Oh, that happened. But when it comes to passing the National Defense Authorization Act, which don't get me started on some of these bills. Like I said, all of the bipartisan bills that she's passing are part of the bills that sell out this country. They're part of all of the bills that many of us are pissed off that our Republicans are selling out on. This is why we're so fed up with the Republicans and the Democrats. To John Deaton's point, you both suck. You both have sold us out. That's exactly what's taking place in DC, and she's part of all of those bills. She absolutely rejects anything that's, a strong conservative bill. But if it's a moderate sell out America bill, then she helps pass it. She doesn't get in the way of that. She helps pass that. That's why we're $33 trillion in debt. That's why we're over 120 trillion in unfunded liabilities. That's why we're in this position. To John Deaton's point, he didn't even get to talk about the Ukraine war. 200 billion went there, and you want to talk about what you're going to do for the people of Massachusetts. Well, you seem to care awfully a lot about that situation, about other situations, right? John Deaton absolutely eviscerated Elizabeth Warren. It's just going to be a matter of us getting behind John Deaton. I got the link on down below. If you feel compelled to donate to John Deaton after listening to his debate tonight, I would totally understand that because I do as well. We need to take this. And guys, gals, what have I been talking about? This is the XRP go viral moment. Part of it is John Deaton going against Elizabeth Warren. And not only that, he specifically mentions XRP on stage tonight. He specifically calls out XRP and the damages done by the SEC to the XRP community on a national debate stage. And he completely dominated on that topic of crypto as she tried to paint it. Oh, and like I said, sorry for cutting in. I couldn't help myself, guys. I know some of you guys were like, shut up and let's listen to the debaters. I had to chime in. Because it's absolutely ridiculous. They're 1000% just jealous that all of the donation money has been going towards the Republicans. That's why Democrats like Elizabeth Warren have made crypto out to be the big bad boogeyman. They're 1000% just jealous. That's, John Deaton's done so well. He's raised so much money in large part because of the crypto vote, and the crypto community is standing up. And it's not just this election, it's other elections, and it has them in full panic. There's a segment right here of politicians that are in full panic over the cryptocurrency digital asset community. Why? We want a level playing field. Like she said, what's going to be the ROI of paying for you? It's going to be a level playing field. It's going to be the ability to transact sound money freely. She tries to act like, oh, I just want them to exist with existing laws. No, you don't want us to have self-custody. Like we have self-custody for precious metals, you don't want us to have self-custody for digital assets. That's wrong. That's unconstitutional. And you need to get out of our way because all we want is a level playing field, and all we want is to use this technology to help make a more equitable financial system that you guys all talk about. All this talk about inclusion and equity and once again, this participation trophy crap of we can't have a standard school test because everybody needs to feel like they've done something and everybody's passed. No, some people failed. This is the real world. Why are we in this position? Because we gave everybody participation trophies. And I'm not just talking about at sports with the kids. I'm talking about our economy was a participation trophy economy. And the types of Elizabeth Warren that want to continue this to every aspect of our life. You don't have to pay your student loan debt. See, it's a mentality of making somebody else pay for it because they don't deserve to be a billionaire, even though they created all of their money, all of their wealth in free market capitalism, most of them. We do have crony capitalism that has corrupted our system, and that's why so many folks are delusional, thinking that capitalism doesn't work. Well, we haven't experienced free market capitalism in a while, specifically since we've had a Federal Reserve and since we've been taken off the gold standard. That's when we really delved away from that. And they want to sit here and pretend, right? Elizabeth Warren, there's a reason why she doesn't want to debate John Deaton again more than one other time. There's a reason why she doesn't want to debate him on the single issue of abortion, which they hammered on for a while. And the same thing that's taking place with John Deaton is actually taking place with J.D. Vance and Donald Trump's campaign as well, where they've been trying to say that just because they don't want to push Roe v. Wade again and pass Roe v. Wade means that they're against abortion. No, there's a constitutional issue at hand, which most people thinking with emotions can't even get to that conversation. This is an adult conversation that some of these kids can't have. There's a constitutional issue at hand. Should the federal government be making that law? No, they shouldn't. It should be the states, which is exactly what happened. It shouldn't be a federal law. It's a state right issue. It's a states' rights issue, right? In that regard, Trump and J.D. Vance have said that they're for the 3 exceptions. John Deaton has said that he's for abortion too. John Deaton even said he even pushed harder than I was kind of actually surprised. He said that I would have pushed to have everybody vote on it, which, hey, at least that's accountability. I'd like to see a lot more of that going on. Single issue votes. Let's see where you stand on the issue. Instead of we don't vote until it's time to vote on a bill that's 3,000 pages long and includes all sorts of different laws. Single issue vote. Up, down, yay, nay. At least that brings accountability. I actually disagree with John, but that's just one issue. And I'm for freedom. I'm I'm a libertarian. So I like to get into that. I don't understand why that has become such a big issue. I want to get off that issue because I don't even understand why it's such a big issue. In almost every instance, every state, there's access to taking care of your situation. I want to get off that issue because I don't even like talking about it. I'm a libertarian at hand. I'm also conservative, right? What I would do personally is I wouldn't do, I'm going to get off this issue, right? But once again, freedom, just like John Deaton said, this is what's at stake here. Elizabeth Warren wants to control us with crypto. She wants to control, and she says that regulators need to be the answer. Federal regulators need to be the answer. No, that's not the answer for solving the housing crisis. That's not the answer for solving any of these problems, or else we would have already solved it. We have the largest government ever. We have record tax collection. Year after year, we've been posting record revenues, and yet the issues aren't getting fixed. So if it was going to get fixed by federal bureaucrats, it already would have been done. That's not how we fix the issues. And it really bugs me because it's with abortion and with some of these other issues, these folks are trying to drive a wedge in between America when most of us we support a lot of these issues. A lot of these issues are not as big of an issue that these folks try to make it out to be, right? I see it with the immigration too. Nobody wants terrorists coming into our country. Nobody wants convicted criminals coming into our country. Everybody's a fan of immigration. Everybody's a fan of immigration because everybody's an immigrant to this country. This country's only 250 years old. We're all immigrants. Everybody's a fan of immigration. Is there different, extents to which people think that we should allow flows into our country? Yeah, but it's almost unanimous, besides some people, that won't allow us to talk about criminals that are making it in. It's like, no, these are convicted criminals that are making it in. Why is this political? Why is this, and it's these issues that they're trying to drive a wedge in America when these are the issues where most of us agree on. Democrats, Republicans, we need to be safe. We need to know who's coming into our country. We want to open up our doors to the best people of the world. We want to open up our doors to people in need that are just looking for a better life, like so many of us got here. But we can't just have it free reign. And you can't be talking about fixing these issues when you're not willing to address the problem in the first place, which is what John Deaton did so well. Now, that beat my expectations. I didn't think that John Deaton was going to mention XRP, and I definitely did not think that was one of the best moments. So we're going to have to go back and clip that one up. When John Deaton mentioned that the judge that agreed against the SEC was a Democrat judge that agreed that went against the SEC. It was a Democrat judge. Furthermore, we have Chris Larson, who just donated over $1 million worth of that crypto to Kamala Harris. So thank you what did he say? You're welcome, Vice President. John Deaton was feeling it up here tonight. He says, you're welcome, Vice President. You just got 1 million XRP. Let XRP go viral. This is what I've been talking about. On top of everything that just went on at Ripple's Swell Conference. I'm going to have more updates tomorrow, guys. This beat my expectations. I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. On the way out, make sure that you guys have liked the video. Let me know what you think about how John Deaton performed in the debate. Let me know what you think about him mentioning XRP. Let me know what you think about him mentioning Chris Larson donating $1 million worth of XRP to, Kamala Harris. You're welcome, Vice President. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments down below. I hope you guys appreciated this stream here tonight. I had a lot of fun. It was a good time. John Deaton knocked it out of the freaking park. Absolutely epic. Everything's at ZachRector.com. I appreciate all of you guys so much. God bless all of you. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much.